Hello, I'm Bob Challoner. I'm the President and CEO of Southampton Hospital, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Focus on Southampton Hospital, your monthly program about the events, the people, and the services at your community hospital. And today we're doing a special program to talk about the relationship that's been formed now between Southampton Hospital and Stony Brook Medicine. And I'd like to welcome the two members of the leadership of Stony Brook Medicine, Kenneth Kashansky, who is the Dean of the School of Medicine and also the Senior Vice President of Health Sciences. And I'd like to welcome Reuven Pasternak, who is the CEO of Stony Brook Hospital and the Vice President for the Health System for Stony Brook. I think I got those titles right. So,
Vice President for Health Systems.
Vice President for Health Systems. So
and I really resent the word senior in my title.
Okay, I knew that. The young Senior Vice President from Stony Brook. Thank you both for being with me today.
Pleasure.
And I know that a lot of people in our community are interested in hearing about the relationship. We've been talking about it for a number of years. And as somebody once told me, good things are worth waiting for. And I know this will be one of those good things that will definitely help our communities. And I wanted to talk open up, and maybe Reuven, if you wouldn't mind, we have been discussing this for a little while, and what do you see as why this is a good thing for our institution and Stony Brook and the communities?
So thank you, Bob. We see this as a growth opportunity for both organizations. Currently, Stony Brook, as a tertiary academic medical center, is an institution which is full and growing in our programs and our development. And Southampton is an organization which is growing as well. We see an opportunity here to expand services at Southampton, expand the scope of services at Southampton, strengthen the relationship, build programs here, and provide medical care as close to home as possible for people on the South Fork and beyond. And so by growth of those programs and providing more comprehensive care for people on the South Fork and doing that with resources available from Stony Brook Medicine, it creates the opportunity also for Stony Brook to be able to have those patients here as opposed to coming to our area and meet the needs of the people as well. It also provides an opportunity to expand the academic and research base that Dr. Kashansky will be able to speak to in his response as well. So from that perspective, at a time when people are looking for how to provide the best standard of care as close to home as possible, we think this is a wonderful solution for both institutions.
And I know that the relationship has been in place for a number of years, and a lot of the referrals go back and forth already from Southampton and Stony Brook, and there's strong medical relationships already. And one of the things that now that we've heard a little bit about the advantages, I just want to back up a little and talk to you about yourselves too. I always like for people to know who I'm interviewing and your backgrounds, and I guess maybe I'll start with you, Dr. Kashansky. Just a little bit about yourself and your role at Stony Brook.
Sure. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. So I would be described as a molecular biologist by training. I'm a hematologist, a board-certified hematologist who takes care of a lot of patients in my former career. And today, I'm head of a very, very impressive healthcare organization. Throughout my career, I've been a scientist, I've been an educator, I've been an active clinician, and now I'm an administrator. So I oversee Stony Brook University Hospital, I oversee our faculty practice, I oversee the School of Medicine as the dean, and also oversee 5 additional health science schools, our schools of nursing and dental medicine and health technology and social welfare, and a new school of pharmacy that's going to be recruiting in about a year and a half.
That's wonderful, thank you. And Dr. Pasternak, a little bit about yourself also and your role at Stony Brook.
So like Dr. Kashansky, I've had a varied path through my career. I trained in medical school and in pediatrics in North Carolina. The first clinical position I held was as a pediatrician at a rural health clinic in North Carolina. So I've come a long way to Long Island. Back to Long Island, I should say, as a native of Hempstead. I went from there to being an intensivist and as a role as an intensivist, was an active clinician in the operating room in anesthesia and in the ICUs for 20 years. I combined that with roles progressively in physician group administration and hospital administration. And my area of research was in the area of risk factor analysis and then providing more efficient systems to do surgical services. So through various positions, I have come to be involved in hospital and health system management and have come to Stony Brook. I've been here for 4 years, and in that capacity, oversee operations at Stony Brook University Hospital, and then work with Dr. Kashansky and an outstanding group of people to grow the enterprise and expand the programs.
Wonderful, thank you both. And I know I've had the opportunity over the last few years to work with both of you, and I know your commitment to Long Island and specifically to the East End has been very strong. You have a lot of wonderful ideas we'll be talking about on how we'll improve healthcare. And I do have to comment, you're both physicians and have become, on the administrative side, our medical staff would probably say you've gone over to the dark side. We on the administrative side would say you've seen the light. So I'm glad that you've done that both. So we often hear Stony Brook is described as an academic medical center. And for folks that are viewing us, would you mind, Dr. Kashansky, what is an academic medical center and how's it different from a community hospital like Southampton Hospital?
Sure. So a high-quality community hospital like Southampton Hospital has one major mission, and that is delivering outstanding care to the citizens of the region. And in Southampton Hospital's case, you do it extremely well. The academic medical center, though, has 4 major missions. The major mission of research. So we are at a frontier of biomedical research. We have a number of focus areas. We have outstanding cancer biology research. We have outstanding neurosciences research and cardiovascular research. So we're in the role of pushing the envelope forward on what we understand about human health and human disease. We also have a huge responsibility for educating the next round of healthcare professionals. As I mentioned, we have an outstanding medical school, and we turn out 130 new physicians every year.
The primary engine for medical doctors in our region.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Something like 80 or 90% of our graduates remain in New York to practice in New York. We have an outstanding nursing school. I would suggest that 90% of our graduating nurses practice on Long Island. Same is true of our physical therapists and our occupational therapists. So we have a very strong commitment to educating and training the next generation of healthcare professionals for the region. We also have a very important clinical mission, and as a tertiary referral center, Southampton Hospital has terrific cardiologists out here. They have terrific general internists and family medicine doctors, but you don't do heart surgery.
Right.
And so when one of the patients that are seen at one of our clinics out here in the East End or at Southampton Hospital need heart surgery, come to Stony Brook because we have outstanding cardiac surgeons. And so we help deliver the important tertiary care for patients with complex medical conditions. And then finally, we have a responsibility to reaching out to the community. Population health. We know that healthcare is moving in very interesting directions about value and increasing access to care and the like. And so we need to study, we need to implement population health and community involvement in healthcare, healthcare literacy and the like, so that the general health of the population is improved as well.
Wonderful. Certainly a big mission. And why, as a follow-up question, why would an academic medical center like Stony Brook even want to be involved with a community hospital?
So of those 4 missions, about 3.5 of them apply to Southampton Hospital.
Right.
For example, the training element. As I said, we graduate about 130 MDs who are going to do residency training. roughly, for Stony Brook, roughly a third of them will remain in an academic kind of setting, either coming on faculty or going to another teaching hospital, but about 2/3 of them are going to go into practice. What better area for them to do their residency training if you're going to go into the community as a general practitioner than to train at a great community hospital like Southampton Hospital? So the experiential training of our students, of our residents, are very appropriately done at a great community hospital like Southampton. Research. There's this notion that all clinical research has to be done in the Ivory Tower Academic Medical Center. But in a way, that's a very misleading way to do clinical research. In an academic medical center, you have highly specialized physicians and the like. But when those medications are approved, those new medications are approved, they're going to be used in the community. So it's a good idea to spread that clinical research, partially at least, into a community hospital setting, because that more reflects real life. The clinical mission, of course, Reuven spoke about that, I spoke a little bit about that. Delivering the right level of care as close to home as possible means that we should be partnering with a great community hospital, so that if you have a community-acquired pneumonia or influenza, you can be cared for in a great way right here at Southampton. If you need a huge level of care and intervention and heart surgery or bone marrow transplantation, come to Stony Brook. So on the clinical mission too, we can partner up very effectively. And then of course population health and community health and healthcare literacy, that's all about the community. So on about 3.5 of the 4 missions, partnering with great community hospitals is in our best interest, and we think in the interests of the residents of the region around the community hospital.
Wonderful, thank you. I know that a goal for our community is always access and getting the resources at Stony Brook distributed throughout the region. I think is certainly something the communities here would support and praise, so thank you for that. We've been in discussion and collaborating already for a number of years, and Dr. Pasnak, I know there's a number of things in place already, and ask you if you could describe some of the things that are already happening between Southampton and Stony Brook.
Certainly. So we certainly haven't been standing still in
right.
that regard. Even before the discussion started, there was a robust positive relationship in terms of patients and Southampton and Stony Brook in terms of assistance and working together. Since that time, the growth that we've had here in Southampton has included working in areas such as surgery and the new hybrid operating room, state-of-the-art surgery being done here, and being done with the assistance of people from Stony Brook who love to work here, by the way. Yeah. So we constantly watch them and make sure they come home.
Yeah,
when
we
they
love
leave.
having them here.
Okay.
So.
But
we keep reminding them about our beach and our geography also.
Well, I'll give an example. So I had mentioned I worked in operating rooms for 20 years, and you were doing surgery here at Southampton that when I was doing anesthesiology were major procedures that lasted for hours. Patients had to stay in the hospital for a week or more. You're doing those same procedures now, the same complexity, minimally invasive, with state-of-the-art equipment, and they're going home the next day.
That's right.
With wonderful success rate. So that's a measure of what can be done and what the future holds. In the cancer center that's being developed here, that's a wonderful outreach to provide state-of-the-art cancer care being done in collaboration with Stony Brook Medicine and with your local medical staff here to provide the best of care here on the South Fork. We also share services in areas such as pathology, and in the area of academics, we have taken our family medicine program, which really is most appropriately done in a top-tier community hospital so people can get the experience of providing care in that environment, working with Hudson River Healthcare.
That's right.
And then as they train here, hopefully they see that this is a place they want to stay and practice as well. So that has a strong positive future for the South Fork too. Something that also we have found as we've worked together that I want to add, and you talk about what's the benefit to both organizations. As we have gone through these processes and as we have gone through the various stages of putting the affiliation together, we have found that our two organizations share a common culture, which is something you don't always find when institutions come together. We have the same values for healthcare, the same commitment to community, and something we've also found is that as healthcare becomes more complex, whether you're a 100-bed hospital or a 1,000-bed hospital, there is an intense complexity to managing the regulatory issues, dealing with the payers, dealing with the government, dealing with information systems and other systems, that what we can do together is more than the institutions can do alone. And we've already seen the benefits in that as well, combining the organizational expertise and working together.
That's been a pleasure to, as we've gone through this long approval process, our people have worked very closely together, and I think we've discovered a very, very strong commitment to the communities we serve, mutual commitment, and specifically to Suffolk County. I mean, for Suffolk County, our coming together and Stony Brook being the only academic medical center in Suffolk County is an important distinction, I think, for us and some other health systems. I'd like to also just follow up, Dr. Koshansky. One of the questions is how does this affect physicians? Physicians are clearly the core of what we do in healthcare, and from your perspective, do you see any changes or any, how will the medical staffs work together?
Well, the medical staffs will be one medical staff. Because of the structure of our affiliation between Southampton Hospital and Stony Brook University, we have to, by legal requirement, have a single medical staff. So we've been working very carefully over the last several months to make certain that we are all on the same page. We hope that everyone will be operating from the same playbook. What are the best medical practices for someone with community-acquired pneumonia or colon surgery or whatever, and develop common approaches to those illnesses and hold ourselves accountable for those good outcomes that we all anticipate. The medical staffs at Stony Brook University, all of our physicians are faculty members, and they're part of hospital privileging processes. Exactly the same thing for the Southampton physicians. The people who have privileges at Southampton Hospital will join our faculty and will be given hospital privileges. And so it'll be the same rigor, the same level of attention to detail, the same expectations for high quality healthcare.
Absolutely, and I know one of the major advantages for us is the academic side of what you're able to provide in the ongoing education for physicians as well, and that will be made available to our physicians either on site or even we're expanding our linkages through video conferencing.
Yeah.
Right. One of the areas that's come up as a follow-up certainly in medicine is cardiology, and a lot of discussion about cardiology. And would you elaborate, Dr. Koshansky, on where do you see us going with cardiology?
Right. As we all know, cardiac diseases is a major killer of people in modern society. And in an academic medical center like ours, 30 to 40% of all the patients we see have cardiac problems, either the primary reason that brought them to hospital or a secondary problem that is affecting their care. So we have really focused on bringing together the very best cardiologists, the very best cardiac surgeons, the very best vascular surgeons who can provide comprehensive care for our patients with cardiac and vascular diseases. The South Fork of Suffolk County also has terrific resources, and I know that you've built this hybrid operating room that will allow a lot of advanced procedures to be done right here at Southampton Hospital. So as we build a comprehensive cardiac care program, we want to allow our physicians, who are both from Southampton and from Stony Brook, to rotate between the two hospitals. And part of this is our drive to develop a cardiac catheterization lab right here at Southampton Hospital in that very same hybrid operating room. There are a myriad of advantages to doing that. Geography is a challenge on Long Island. I was just out in Amagansett for a reason, and that's a little bit east of here.
Yes.
And if I were having chest pain in Amagansett, I wouldn't want to have to drive all the way to Stony Brook or even closer in Riverhead. I would want to be treated at Southampton Hospital. And for that very reason, we are petitioning together, we are petitioning the State Department of Health to to allow us to build on the Southampton campus a cardiac catheterization lab to allow 24/7, 365 care for patients who are having cardiac problems. Some of those patients are going to need heart surgery, and getting them very quickly to Stony Brook University Hospital for advanced cardiac surgery care is also a way that we are going to cultivate cardiac care in Southampton and the entirety of Suffolk County.
Probably the most vivid example of how this collaboration benefits our communities. We could not do it without your help, and we provide you with the access to be able to reach further into the community than you can on your own. So
Well
we're
said.
Yes.
Well
very
said.
excited about that. And along with that, we're hearing some interesting news about Mount Sinai. And do you want to? Are you ready to elaborate a little bit about that?
Sure. We had so about a year or a year and a half ago, as the leaders at Stony Brook were speaking about how do we make a maximal impact? How do we make a maximal impact in our 4 missions? It occurred to me that partnering with a large Manhattan-based healthcare system might be a very effective way to make a bigger impact than we just at Stony Brook Medicine can do. And so I spoke with the leaders at NYU and at Montefiore and Presbyterian, but we had a special chemistry with the leadership at Mount Sinai. Like Reuben said about the culture mesh between us at Stony Brook and Southampton Hospital, from the very first meeting we had with the leadership of Mount Sinai, there were a lot of commonalities in approach to healthcare. There were a lot of commonalities and congruencies between the programs we had and they had. And so about 4 or 5 months ago, we signed what we believe is a very historic affiliation agreement with Mount Sinai Health System. And the affiliation calls for 3 areas of collaboration. First, research. And as an example, if there is a topic that is important for biomedical research, and maybe Mount Sinai has 2 scientists that can study it, but by themselves don't have a critical mass to solve the problem, but Stony Brook has 2 other biomedical scientists, and the 4 of them come together, voila, you have a real critical mass of people to attack a healthcare problem. So on the research front, there are a lot of collaborations. On the educational front, Mount Sinai is a terrific hospital system, a terrific medical school, but it ends there. They don't have a large nursing school offering nurse practitioner training. They don't have a health technology school. They don't have a healthcare social worker school. They don't have a pharmacy school. And so by partnering up between Sinai and Stony Brook, we can cross-educate and create more experiential learning sites for our students there and for their medical students on Long Island. And then finally, in the clinical realm, especially cardiac diseases, for example, we are going to come together, utilize best practices, hold each other accountable for utilizing those best practices, and grow the ability to care for patients with virtually every kind of cardiac or other kind of diseases. So the partnership is developing very nicely. I am in constant contact. About every other week I speak with Ken Davis, who's the president of Mount Sinai, to continue to move ourselves forward together to offer all of the residents of Long Island access to a Manhattan to Montauk, or depending on your point of view, Montauk to Manhattan.
We would say Montauk to
I
Manhattan.
think so.
Right, that's right.
That's why I mentioned it.
Thank you.
Montauk to Manhattan healthcare system that will address virtually every healthcare need.
I think that's very exciting, and particularly here, since we have so many residents who travel back and forth from, have homes in our communities and Manhattan. So
And their secondary homes are in Manhattan.
that's
Yeah.
exactly right. Exactly, secondary. And Dr. Pasternak, let's step back a little to some of the practical realities of us coming together. Healthcare is a tough business these days in terms of cost savings and Financially, it's always tough. And where do you see some of the advantages maybe of us working together just in terms of our strengthening financially each other as we move forward, and economies of scale perhaps?
Certainly. So I think this allows us to take a regional approach to the way we provide services. The cost structure of Southampton Hospital is a lower cost structure than Stony Brook University Hospital, but you still have outstanding physicians here, nursing staff and other staff. So it's more appropriate to care for certain patients in this type of environment, which is also, as we said before, closer to home and more intimate than at Stony Brook. So there's a rationale of distribution of services and where patients are cared for. On the administrative side, as we have spoken about already, when we talk about high-end items that are necessary for hospitals like information systems, that consumes a huge part of hospital budgets and resources and trying to stay current with the technology. The larger the enterprise that you have that you can bring to the table for those, the more leverage you have in terms of working with those information services and getting the best of care. So for Southampton, you can get the access to the same type of business and technical support capacity that we have at Stony Brook. And that's a major savings for your organization and improves that as well. In terms of dealing with the various payers and with regulatory agencies, again, very complex to do, becoming increasingly complex, and we can improve our positions there mutually with this as well. And as Dr. Kashansky has intimated with the clinical programs, the larger base you have for the clinical flow, the more you can attract the specialty physicians and have those within your system to treat the full scope of activity that you may have to provide and make that available on a consultation basis or on site too.
One of the items you mentioned was the information systems and integration of medical records, which is a big concern for a lot of people. And I frequently hear people say, oh, I wish if I went from Southampton to Stony Brook, it were one record. Do you see the day that will happen?
Absolutely.
Right.
And that certainly is within our plans to do that. And to do that soon after the integration. So it's not a simple thing to do. Right. We have already planned for that as we come together. So as we come together, we do have a mechanism to be sure that information gets transferred between the two institutions so that patients do not lose that continuum of care as they go back and forth. And then we'll do that even more formally as we go onto a single information system and database.
That's great. And one of the programs that I know we're early on talking about bringing together is cancer, and creating a facility out here, as you described, Dr. Kashansky. One of the questions that's often asked by people out here is, with Stony Brook, would we have the opportunity to participate in clinical trials in some of the more advanced cancer treatments?
Absolutely. We're very excited that Southampton Hospital is helping support and develop a regional cancer center right on Route 27. We have a very large and growing cancer presence. We're currently in a drive towards becoming an NCI designated cancer center. Certainly our biomedical research in cancer will support that. Our clinical research will support that. And part of being a robust clinical NCI designated cancer center is to enroll community in cancer clinical trials. That is part of the NCI's expectation. And so by partnering up with Southampton Hospital and partnering up with a Southampton-based regional cancer center that provides access to advanced protocols in chemotherapy and radiation oncology, it actually benefits our drive to becoming an NCI-designated cancer center. So by all means, this is a win-win situation. It's a win for the residents of the region in the South Fork, and it's a win for Stony Brook because it gives us a much broader group of patients to bring new treatments to.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And final question, one of the areas people are always concerned about is emergency care. What happens in an emergency? And Dr. Pasternak, I'd just like to ask you to describe, we have a number of activities already underway between our institutions, but where do you see emergency care going as we come together?
So we're making it increasingly tighter and smoother between the two organizations. We have Stony Brook emergency vehicles located so that when a determination is made at Southampton that a patient needs to come to Stony Brook, that we have the support immediately available to get the person there. Even before that, a consultation with Stony Brook when the person is in the Southampton Emergency Department to determine what are the immediate needs. Does that person need that level of care, or can that be provided here as well? So we have already expanded the ground transport significantly between the two organizations, the communication between staff, and we are also working together to ensure that when patients arrive at our emergency room door, that they are going to get prompt attention and prompt treatment and immediate access to the services that we have.
And I'll shout out to your leadership team. They assisted us achieve the Level 3 trauma designation,
Yes.
which was a first for this end of Long Island.
Yes,
so thank you
absolutely.
to everyone there. Just very final and very briefly, because we're out of time, Dr. Koshansky, any last comments about your vision for how we're going to evolve in the next couple of years?
I see the affiliation between Southampton Hospital and Stony Brook Medicine as really vital on very many levels. I mentioned the academic, the educational of the next generation of healthcare providers. As you probably know, we are growing our health technology training facility at the Southampton campus of Stony Brook University. So this is important for Stony Brook University and Stony Brook Medicine. The clinical care of being able to offer a full range of services is very good for our brand of healthcare, and I think it's good for the region. And so as we grow our footprint across Suffolk County, as we grow east and strengthen our previously existing affiliation with Southampton Hospital, make it much more robust, as we grow west with our ambulatory services, I see a network of healthcare that it doesn't matter where you are in Suffolk County, there is always going to be Stony Brook Medicine there for you as a healthcare consumer, whether you're in the south, in the east, in the west, or up in our region. So this is good for patients, and that's really what it's all about, is making ourselves as available as we can to the patients of the region.
That's wonderful, and it's certainly a vision that I know we will realize very, very quickly. It's been a pleasure having you both on today, and we'll look forward to future episodes also with you and members of your clinical staff. Also, it'd be interesting to bring some of them out here and introduce them to our communities.
Looking forward to it.
So I thank you very much for being here. I'd like to thank all of you for watching today. If you have any questions or comments, as always, about anything you heard in the program today, please feel free to call my office at 631-726-8555. If you just need help navigating the healthcare system out here on the East End, please give us a call. I'd like to, as always, thank our friends at CTV for producing and airing the show in Southampton, and our friends at LTV for airing the program in our East Hampton communities. Thank you all, and good health, everyone.